It had to be seamless. Nobody could know that there was any difference in application.
Yeah, which it was beautiful how I think it's beautiful how we did this, and I think we could teach a whole course on how to like upgrade a legacy system, but make your users unaware of it.
This is like one of those weird practical examples that like there's a way to do it, but to find any research or anything to help you,
You can't.
it's a nightmare.
Yeah, good luck
Like,
Googling that.
So one of the things is we're using IIS Express to launch the application because it's only one project, pretty easy. Well, now what we have is we have two systems, and they need to share the same authentication system.
Same database.
Same database, same ton of stuff. Well, the database we could probably mitigate that didn't necessitate for the database.
Yeah.
But the seamless integration, that's what necessitated it. And so we built a little bit prior to this. Well, actually, no, with this.
It was a part of this project was the single sign-on.
Yeah, so we went from a very rudimentary, I'm going to call it rudimentary.
It was
system.
terrible.
Yeah.
It was plain text passwords in a database. It was awful.
Yeah. And for anybody listening to this, if you're like, oh, plain text password's not that bad.
Oh.
If you ever do a forgot my password and they give it to you, that means that your password is stored as plain text.
Yeah.
So that is a change it, scramble it, abandon ship, find something else.
Don't use that app. Yeah, you should never be able to recover your password. That's like a no. Password should always be one-way encrypted with a salt, and nobody except you and your brain should know it. But
yeah, anyway,
tangent. Yeah, so we abandon the embedded authentication system that came with .NET. I can't believe Microsoft allowed us to store plain text passwords.
Yeah.
Maybe they just assumed you were going to
Well,
hash them.
honestly, though, I think we wrote our own custom login.
Nope. We used the out-of-the-box Microsoft identity.
Weird.
Yeah.
Single sign-on. We've got it integrated with the old application. Cool. Now, we need that same login to work with the new system. And because it's Angular, and the old system was using cookie-based authentication. And the new system, well, you don't really have the same server credentials to check and things like that. So what I ended up doing is because it's using the same, we moved from the typical .NET platform, we moved to Identity Server 4.
Which uses OAuth to the OpenID Connect protocol built on top of OAuth 2. Because OAuth 2 is just meant to authenticate A and B. OpenID Connect adds like a user,
a standardization to it, like your identity and things like that.
It adds like a user to like the authentication system. So we find this free open source single sign-on.
Yeah,
and
not free or open source anymore. But
yeah, which we now have to deal with. It's not supported, and we got to move to something that actually costs money. But that's another problem for another day. But we find this free open source system at the time. We build it. And the single sign-on actually solved a very difficult problem, and that is how do we flow people between the legacy and the new system without them realizing they're logging into two different systems? Well, the answer is you log in, you come in through the new door, you log in with the single sign-on, and you go through the old door, and it knows you're already logged in because they both share the same single sign-on, and vice versa.
Right.
But there was some issues with how to build that single sign-on between the two systems.
Yeah, so we were using Identity Server 4.
It was 3 at the time, I think, right?
No,
it was 4.
Yes, 4 straight away. Because I think 4 just came out.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was like relatively like we went straight to 4.
Yeah.
Angular doesn't have cookie authentication. So we ended up we used the OIDC client that Identity Server 4, is it Brock Allen, I think, is the guy that built that one.
Yeah, good old Brock.
I don't know. I don't know. His name is all over that project, and that guy, I don't know, but he seems like the smartest guy in the world. But so anyway, so he has this OIDC client that he had built to integrate with this Identity Server 4. And we started doing implicit flow. So that's a whole other thing to talk about. It's like, okay, with SSO, like you have your different flows. You got your implicit, you got your hybrid, you got your client credentials.
Password.
Your grant types. Sorry. Yeah, that being that. So our one system is using hybrid because we're considered a first party platform. First party platform, so you can do hybrid, or it's not frowned upon anyway. And this other platform we're doing implicit flow. So we do that. However, the problem that we started hitting that was very apparent was when you switch from system 1 to go to system 2, it seems so slow.
Yeah, it was like a 20-second
Right, because I had to reinitiate the entire login process. Now, granted, nobody interacted with it.
But it was still 20 seconds.
It was still 20 seconds. So what we ended up doing was we ended up generating bearer tokens during the login process and caching that off and saying, like, okay, you're still in the same session here between A and B. Start using that, and because we're still doing 8 web API, so we're like, okay, we're still using this OAuth standard, but the front end is a little goofy to kind of make this flow correctly.
Yeah, and we tucked the bearer token in like a session cookie or something.
Yeah.
And because the old and the new app were on the same domain, we could share cookies between the two systems.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So,
yeah,
brain thinking.
Good
times.
So
that because of that necessitated us to move away from IIS Express to IIS for local development. Because IIS Express, they gave you different ports. They're different domains. You can't share cookies.
Wow, man. Okay, so the sharing the cookie was the sole reason we moved to IIS.
Yeah, it is.
Jeez.
This is why I keep on saying, like, we just got to get rid of that platform, man. So it was how to get the things to share, right? And again, moving to IIS makes it dumb simple. Because again, now you can use cookies and both sides can access it because they are now the same domain. And the way that we had to do that was we essentially created a virtual directory in the root application so that they can do that communication.
The root being the legacy system, the virtual directory being the new system. So they're essentially two separate websites, but to the end user, it looks like it's just a directory.
Right.
So mywebsite.com took you to the old system. Mywebsite.com/new took you to the new system. And jumping between the two was just a matter of sharing the same single sign-on, sharing the same cookies. No one's the wiser. You really can't tell if it's just a folder or an entirely separate application.
Well, okay, I would say you could if you're savvy enough.
Yeah.
Right.
But our users didn't even notice they were moving to a separate new system. And there was a lot of really cool UI witchcraft that our UI team did that they did
to make it look exactly the same. It is, they did a really good job.
Yeah, they did.